Welcome. So I'm Michael Jack. I'm one of the co-conveners of the Ontario Energy Research Centre, and this is one of our part of our seminar series. So it's my pleasure to welcome V.Toy to tell us about her experiences in Ecuador.
Thanks, Michael. And I've already noticed that conversion to this is an orange background, so you can read all of these things. Conversion to PDF in the last few seconds. So actually, the nature of this presentation will be completely demonstrated with my Ecuadorian experience last year. It's basically, it's kind of like, whoa, what happened next? And somehow spontaneously in the midst of all that, not just for me, but for this entire institution that I was involved in, stuff spontaneously happens. It was actually amazing, of course. But sometimes there are little glitches like this. So I hope, yes, can you read that?
Yeah.
You can pretend you can see it. So I've got 3 parts to this presentation. The first of which is to explain to you about this place called V.Toy for a month and a half or so last year. The second is to talk to you about how I, a structural geology and tectonics trained person, so that's my background, is in structural geology and tectonics. And for a decade, I taught structural geology and tectonics and research. And sometime in the last couple of years, I realized that my interests are evolving in life, and maybe I just don't want to be only teaching structural geology. That's only doing research, but I want to be involved in stuff like sustainable use of earth resources, or energy management, or insulating my container home and working my way through the building codes and interactions, or helping to understand earthquake resilience. And that I want to do this not just in New Zealand, but in other places in the world. But, you know, I feel like, particularly developing nations, some of the upcoming nations, not just maybe South America, maybe Latin America, but also China, India. You know, I want to understand how I can start to take education about those topics out to those countries, right? So this is a little bit of me trying to look at how I could do that. I thought, oh, I can't do that. I can't teach anything about sustainable use of resources because I'm a structural geologist. But actually, I can, and have managed to, and it's been a fascinating process. And then the final part is me starting to talk about the contributions that I'm making to Ecuador's societal resilience. So, okay, V.Toy Tech. Not even. Ecuador is one of the world's developing nations. There are some photos. People still live in mud huts, turkeys, and the place is absolutely chaotic. The cities, they have, one of the things that really strikes me is the vast number of using small pursuing vehicles in their cities. My first visit there was just sort of depression in terms of, oh my God, the developing world is coming, and it's going to, it doesn't matter how much I ride my bike in New Zealand, because these days are going to just blow me away with the use of, you know, having a car in Ecuador changes your life, you know. This is the slopes of one of the massive, I climbed a 4,600 meter volcano, by the way. The slopes of one of the massive volcanoes, and every day I would ride away from this place I was working, and I would ride up this hill on my bike. And when I started riding home, there was piles of brush that had been cleared on the side of the road, and I would see this little old man every day walking down the road with this huge pile of sticks on his back, right? And every day, and I was like, this is just a kilometre of sticks this guy had to move from. And he was doing it on foot. And then halfway through it, one afternoon, I saw him and he borrowed a truck. It was very huge, and the amount of sticks that we could move. So it's life-changing for him to have the diesel steering on truck. So how can I take that away from them and say, you can't have the truck because it's getting emissions? It's really, it's a hard question, right? Anyway, it's a developing nation, and the question for me is, can it develop sustainably? This is, they have a brand new airport out of Quito, and when you're driving away from the airport, you go through these big elevation changes, like the roads just sort of plunging down these massive volcanic things. And in building these roads, the retaining walls, so this photo doesn't show it, but there's about sort of, I don't know, look at that picture of Fieldland and take the side of my peak and basically retain the whole thing with spray concrete, right? There's that much material that is being put into building these transport networks, so just roads. And why they just built this brand new? Why did they not build train system? Why did they do this? You know, how do we demonstrate to them that a more appropriate solution is available? It's a very interesting question. However, there are inspirations as well. So on my first day of arrival in Quito, I discovered this thing called the Cyclopaseo. Oops. Oh, it's PDF, so I can't show you the movie. That's a movie of me on my bike riding down this hill. So Quito, the city of diesel-steering vehicles, on a Sunday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. every Sunday, they close the Trans-Andean highway through the center of town for that many hours. 30 kilometers of the road through the middle of this major city is closed to vehicular traffic, so we run to go for a bike ride. It's not kidding you, right? And all of these people get out on crazy old 40 pieces bikes, and they're all just like riding around happily in the middle of town. So we think that I worry, but I don't worry because actually they've got these initiatives like that. When I was getting a lift to the airport at one stage, the driver managed to eventually bring someone so that he could translate what he was trying to say to me, which was that I was about to be booted out of his car on the outskirts of the city and on a taxi. Because he wasn't allowed to drive into the city at that time of day because he wasn't really used to it. So they have in place a whole bunch of things that are trying to reduce the pollution of it. So I had increasing inspiration. I was worried, but I had increasing inspiration for the place. And yeah, I got involved in this place called Yachay Tech, which is, so this is Ecuador, that's Central America, Panama, Colombia, this is the boundary, which is heavily fought. This is the big oil-bearing basins of the Amazon, and the exact and precise position of this is controlled by oil barons. Quito is the capital city. This is the high Andes, so it's on the equator, which is why it's called Ecuador, which means equator in Spanish. But it hasn't, out here is the black basin, out on the coastal area is kind of awful, and in terms of climate, but up here is not. It's at 2,200 meters elevation. The climate, it's light at 6 a.m. and dark at 6 p.m. every day of the year. The temperature ranges from 14 degrees to 25 degrees every day of the year. It's avocados grow, corn grows, you cannot starve to death. And yet it is dry and pleasant, and this is perfect, right? And so north of Quito, the Ecuadorian government, in a controversial move about 5 years ago, decided to put 15 million or something, the amount of money I can't remember, but it's a vast amount for a small developing nation, into this project called Yachay, which is a replication of Silicon Valley for South America. The PhD educated in America, head of the Ecuadorian government, has decided to use the stimuli funding to build a science and technology city that will lead the economic and technological development of Latin America. It's a grand scheme. It's a controversial scheme politically in this country because the country has a lot of people who are still living on $1 a day, who are still struggling, although they should just be living off their housing. So, anyway, we're technically struggling. And to have that proportion of the country's income go into what's seen as, there's an awful lot of, but in Quito there are a few established education institutions, the Escuela de Politécnica Nacional, who the faculty who've been teaching in these institutions mostly had master's degrees up until 5 years ago. And that was fine. These guys, professors like Andrew and I, have been teaching for 15, 20 years and they're really good at what they do, but they don't have a master's degree, so that's what they need. Now, in instituting the V.Toy project, they also decided to build a new university. And they changed the regulations of education in the country to say that in order to be a university, 80% of your faculty will do PhDs. So all of these existing places, the existing institutions, if somebody has seen all their people overseas, they've had to develop, they can't award a PhD because they don't have PhD level people. So they've had to basically all go to France and develop a relationship with France and actually obtain PhDs, which is that's a big challenge for the existing institutions. They, as part of V.Toy, which is a science city, a technology stimuli, like we have the Centre for Innovation, right? They have a kind of centre for developing new technologies. And they have a new university, which is started. The university opened in the first quarter of 2014, so it's brand new. And it's hired a bunch of international PhD graduate faculty. It's kind of struggling. It's hired quite a few people who are close to the end of their careers, and it's hired quite a few people who are straight out of PhDs, but it's a real struggle to hire anyone at my level of career because of the uncertainty with respect to ongoing funding, because people aren't going to walk out of jobs like mine and go and work there. So instead, what they're doing is they're getting people like me who are willing to go and be part of the place as research and study lead from their own positions. So people taking sabbatical. They advertise and they're looking for faculty. I went and visited the thought that maybe I was brave enough to take a job there. I decided that I wasn't. Well, they had a election this year, and the guy who had supported the development of funding for the institution couldn't stand the obviously under their regulations, and so there were chances that a few months ago suddenly everything was cut, and I wasn't willing to. I mean, I could have gone there and paid the same salary I had here, but I really felt that my ability to contribute to what they're trying to achieve is better by being based here. And I might not contribute 100% of my time to it, but my actual overall contribution will be better. We'll see how much of this I get through, but it's a. So where am I at? Ecuador, yes, right. V.Toy. So it's huge and risky and politically fraught investment. They have this north of Quito and in this place called Ecuador. They are building a new university. They've taken an old sugar refinery, and they have these beautiful university buildings, but it's very small. They're building new roads. This is some of the foundations for the new buildings. The whole place is under construction and under development. This is actually looking out over the new sciences blocks. And it's kind of fascinating that they have put these new labs in place. I was asked to submit an application for cost estimates for their next round of equipment purchases. And they're like, the problem with the entirety of Latin America is that there's this well-developed bureaucracy that allows them to pass the buck in terms of who signs the final the money goes to this. Their coffers are huge, but they haven't actually been able to actually buy things. The actual process of going through and getting to the purchases, not being achieved, so which is very frustrating because I was asked to submit sort of the things I've been spent years putting into large equipment request funds here that are not supported for billions of dollars. You know, they want to spend, they want to buy $3 million pieces of equipment. And they have got some really fancy labs, but the labs unfortunately have, because they don't have a building code, the labs are being, they're like, oh look, we built this. And yeah, there are all these cracks through the concrete floor, we're not really sure why these are here. I'm like, oh gee, why don't you buy some equipment that will allow you to actually do some tests on concrete that you can actually demonstrate to people why you want to use this type of concrete. Right? It's quite interesting because through the education opportunities they can actually develop their own regulations in a way that it's kind of neat. Anyway, and I mean I was just trying to get them to understand how you build a road properly. I was just trying to get them to buy a scalar penetrometer so we can do some compaction tests of the road as part of their teaching opportunities. That's kind of a choice thing. Yeah, that's supposed to pop up. That's my office. That's in the hallway because there's not a lot of space here. So I just occupied the hallway. There's 6 faculty members in there and there's 6 faculty members in there. And sometimes dogs would wander in and out.
How many students are there already?
200. They've just managed to get their geoscience major accepted by the university. They've just got their first PhD. Geology is the top faculty because it's the chancellor of the university is the wife of the head of senior geosciences, and he's on sort of long-term leave from June. And his wife's just really, I mean, it's all just, it's so like, gee, we need to have, everything's, it's kind of like, oh, how do I make this work? You know, oh, I need some chairs in my classroom. So you go and requisition some chairs, right? It's really different. I've been involved in an university that's starting from scratch. The problem is that I saw an opportunity to start from scratch in terms of their academic structure as well, and yet they're not doing that because everything's, they kind of had, the government said, you've got to have 200 students this year, put a program in place for them, and we all know that if you do that, you can't develop things in a community way. You go, right, so I've already got the statistical material, and I can use it, or I've already got the statistical structure, which is the American System for Education, and I'll just institute that because I don't have time to develop things properly. And that's a really sad thing to get out. That's the other reason that I decided not to pursue the is that because of the sort of having to do things in a panic, then they're not going to actually develop a whole new education system in the way that I hope they might. Nevertheless, so yeah, I actually was put on as teaching staff and I got paid enough to pay for my visa to be paid. I'm not sure I'm supposed to accept income, but I did get paid enough to pay for the process of getting the visa. So I'm getting started on how long getting the visa took. Well, the fact that my passport was sitting into some office in Ecuador for weeks. I'm not even going to see my passport again. I don't even speak the language sufficiently well to get my passport back. Many of you will have received emails from me saying, hey, I've got a teaching class tomorrow in X, Y, or Z. Can you help me with some materials? Minerals resources, I got information from days before. I learned an awful lot in the course of 6 weeks of teaching about all sorts of things. About gas hydrates, I didn't actually ask you to ask you material. But I learned a lot about teaching about gas. I know an awful lot more about gas hydrates than I did previously, and so do a bunch of South American students. They know about mineral resources. I managed to cobble together a bunch of really interesting teaching stuff. I also did. I'd had just been given these energy estimators for calculating my own energy consumption in my container house by this guy picturing the here, and I got the students to run as a class exercise because I wanted them to be developing some quantitative skills. I got them to look at their own library and calculate the energy required to run it based on the light bulbs and number of computers. And then they had this water wheel on site, it's no sugar mill, and we managed to download climate data that looked at rainfall, the realistic estimates of the catchment area for the rainfall, and we actually calculated how much energy we could generate with their own water wheel, which was insufficient. But then we looked at potentially having solar panels or having wind turbines, the cost versus energy that would be. So they did all that as a class exercise. It was fun. I'm sure that's what you do every day, but for me it was exciting. And the other thing I did was we talked about sustainability of packaging, and I forced these poor students. No, I made these poor students. View full screen. To keep track of every bit of packaging that they collected in the way of when they bought food for a month. And I think this would be a useful exercise for all of us to do. So this is me. My method of doing that was every time I had a package of something, I would take a photo of it and record it with a timestamp, and then I made a spreadsheet at the end. But the students were just shocked. They were just blown away. They were so they become campaigners for the rest of the university on packaging. It's awesome, right? And yeah, they did presentations on like food presentations, which was great. But all the teaching is in English. But these guys, they were pretty good. My Spanish is slightly better than it was when I went there. Not very good. And I taught the entire course paperless. So I only gave out electronic copies of class notes. I gave this test in which the students walked into the class. I gave them it via email as they started. I collected it via email at the end of the class. This was an interesting thing to think through, like how do you actually ensure that you're not losing your, that it is being done in a rigorous way. And yeah, they have a Blackboard type thing that worked, and I was able to mark all the tests while I was putting on the bus down to the next time and send it back to them. So that worked. I forgot to mention that my classroom was really flash and it had a really good computer screen and HDMI and stuff, but there was no door. They just hadn't got around to installing the door. Like dogs would wander in the back of the classroom and just, because there's a lot of dogs, right? It was nice, it's just that the door hadn't been hung. And it didn't matter because the climate's so good that it didn't matter. Okay, so the other thing I did was get involved in earthquake hazard stuff. And I'd actually thought about doing this with my intention. I lined up to go visit and I got notice other people on the 5th of April 2016. And I booked my airline ticket on the 5th of April 2016. And I started to email this guy who was the National Seismometers and say, hey, I'm coming to Ecuador and I'd like to get involved in helping us think about earthquake effects and how you can have some legislation that will make you able to deal with that. And then on the 16th of April, there was a tennis breakfast. And I was like, oh, right. Panic, do I go and help them now or do I wait? And I decided that the best thing that I could potentially do was to go when I had planned to do it for 6 months later, and to try and get involved in their research community in a way that we could interchange between what they were doing in Ecuador and New Zealand. Worldwide, we have an extremely advanced understanding of what you do when there's an earthquake, because we have Christchurch and now we have Christchurch. And actually, Kaikoura's response was like the way that as a society we responded to Kaikoura was super impressed compared to Christchurch. Like, we were coordinated in terms of who did what, not just the civil defence, but also the scientific response, like who goes and maps what, who jumps in a helicopter, that was actually really well done. Like, who communicates with the media, compared to how Christchurch had been done. We did an extremely good job. When I first went to Ecuador, the people who had been working on the stuff already were in the existing universities, and I think I spent a month and a half mostly negotiating with them in terms of me as an international researcher coming in and wanting to be in any way involved in what they were doing. And I understood that because the Alpine Fault Drilling project for many years, like Alpine Fault research, was always a case of New Zealand doesn't have a lot of money, but we've been going out and bashing rocks in the bush for years, and international people would jump in and they would drop in and they would take a couple of rocks, and they would go and do some fancy analyses and they would publish a paper in Nature. And we would be like, we don't have money to do that. But we showed them the field sites and we're not on the paper. And we would feel quite resentful of it, right? And the Ecuadorians, the existing ones, have that feeling about V.Toy and the new international faculty and about anyone else coming in as well. They feel very challenged because they're still being measured on number of publications, and they feel that because they're the ones that are having to do the hard yards of putting the basics of doing research, the basics of keeping track of earthquakes, that they don't have the time to write the papers and they don't have the experience to do it. And they don't like international researchers jumping in and spinning. So, but I think my experience with the Alpine Fault Drilling project, which was how to interact with an international community in terms of getting them introduced in the hard work as well, get them to do the hard labour, engage them in the process of collecting the samples. And then the publications that arise are joint. I think that I managed to negotiate that with them, but it took a long time. So it took me a month after being there to even be allowed to, I got taken over to visit this place called Porto Viejo where they're doing research. So he goes up here, it's an 8-hour drive. And one day I flew over here, drove around and collected a bunch of temporary seismometers that have been installed through the city in 30-degree heat, coastal Ecuador. Got toured all around all of the damaged buildings, met all of the municipal officers over an extended lunch, drove for 8 hours back across the entire Ecuador to Quito, and then on arrival in Quito, we had to carry the boxes of seismometers we collected and all of the batteries up 8 flights of stairs at 2,500 meters. This is me and Pedro with these boxes, and we basically were like one step. I got up at 3 o'clock in the morning. This is not at 10 o'clock at night, right? This is like the longest day of my life. We would take one step with these heavy boxes, and then we would just sort of stare at one another and stand there for a while. We like took one more step. It was tough, but.
So a bit of context to begin. What other institutions are there in Ecuador that are doing geology? You know, is there an organization like GNS? Are there other universities that have large geology departments?
So the big one is the Escuela Politécnica Nacional, who is so that poster on the wall was presented last week by my collaborators over there at they had a annual meeting of the Geological Society, basically, and it was at that, and that's a public university, and then there's an awful lot of private universities. So the private universities, mostly their research is funded by contracts, their students pay to attend. It's not that interactive. I tried to work out how to jointly do research with them and with these guys, and I haven't quite sussed that out yet. that poster is cool though. I am really proud of that because, so that's a write-up. I also wrote an extended abstract for one of their journals on it. That's a 3D geologic model of the city here called Porto Viejo, which we visited. And they have had temporary seismometer installation through Porto Viejo for the last 6 months, or the 6 months following the earthquake. And they occupied over that time 140 sites, so local microseismic array. They have so they have these little microseismic. They record the effects of the earthquake at all these local sites, and it's the kind of information that you need to really. And so then they also have this data set, which is after the earthquake, the city went through with international assistance, and they assessed something like 30,000 buildings for structural integrity to tell people whether they could reoccupy their buildings. And so then they categorized them, classified the buildings into destroyed, badly damaged, not damaged. And so the next step for them is to understand how so they need to look at the seismographs and the building damage and the age of the buildings and think about the effects. Like the reason they get different amounts of damage is both a function of the way the building was built, but also a function of the path, the soils that the earthquake waves pass through, right? This is an extraordinarily scientifically rich data set, but they lack someone to build the models of the three-dimensional geology and integrate the geotechnical information that comes from boreholes through the city that are actually being drilled. And so that's where I've kind of stood up and said, look, you've got someone doing this, we'd like to do it. But I don't have money to do it. I've been applying for funds to it, but I thought, hey, let's just get underway anyway. And so we have an ex-student who's working for this three-dimensional modeling company called V.Toy Christchurch. And he's really interested, and he's just done this in his spare time. He's like, oh, yeah, that's cool. It's the same kind. Yeah, why not just. So he's extracted all of the information from existing geologic maps, built this model, and then we show this assessment of the different building age and the different damage and how it relates to the underlying geology. I think, what else do I have to say? This is some of the damage. These are the locals. So even to just go through and have a look at the different buildings, the different types of construction, just I want to write up some wee pamphlets that people can distribute that say, hey, this is what happens if your concrete is composed of beach sand. Or some explanation of why liquefaction occurred in different areas. Yeah, so kind of would like to incorporate someone with education and outreach interests into this project as well. And I have put in a request to the Catalyst Fund for it. I don't think they're going to support it because it's not Catalyst. New Zealand's Catalyst Fund really sees New Zealand as a developing nation scientifically, and it wants to fund us going to use advanced equipment, not us to provide aid to somewhere. Yeah, but there are other international programs that just haven't had deadlines yet that I will apply to bring some of these guys to New Zealand and to send someone to Ecuador potentially to collect some more geological information for the 3D model, and also they want to run a gravity survey through that city to try and define the depth of alluvium. So that's all on the cards. And the last thing we've done is.
What do we have in terms of foreign affairs people in Ecuador? Do we have an ambassador there, or
no? There isn't even an Ecuadorian embassy in New Zealand. There's you have to go to Canberra if you want to. In New Zealand, we have funding for aid programs, but they're focused on the Pacific. Yeah. The last thing I did was the seismometers in schools idea. So I figured that getting a bit of public knowledge and education about earthquake impacts wasn't a bad thing. And I don't know if you've heard of this program in New Zealand called Seismometers in Schools, but Mila Adam in Auckland has administered this for some time. And they're these cool seismometers that are really visual, right? They're really, you can see the spring moving in them, you can understand what's happening, and they install them in primary schools, and then they hook them up to a live network. And the kids watch the readouts from earthquakes. And so I worked with the new Yachai Geo Club, decided that it wanted to start instituting this program in Ecuador. And that's the Geo Club sitting there on the steps. And so we bought them a seismometer. Everyone put in $50, and we bought one of these from the US. And now they're trying to work out what earthquakes are. These are them. And they pulled it apart, and they're trying to build them. And the cool thing was just how amazingly keen these kids are, right? Like, they don't have as much opportunities as we do, but so the geoscience majors there are just like so unbelievably keen that I would love to find a way for them to come here to New Zealand and spend a semester working with us, learning from us. Yeah, I requested some sponsorship for it. They don't have internet in all the schools, but they all have cell phones. So I was trying to work out right, but there's an app on your cell phone. Iris has an app that can keep a track of the size of the live time, right? So I was talking to their telecommunications company about sponsoring smartphones for all of the schools that want to be involved in the Seismometers in Schools program. It hasn't yielded anything yet, but let's just keep an eye on it. Okay, that's actually it. That's all I prepared. Random questions? Yeah, thanks, huge audience.
You gonna get back again?
I want to. I don't have time this year. I might next year. I would like to. And I think there's a lot of opportunities for us to be involved too. I would like to get one of these student exchange agreements going with them eventually, but I don't know how you'd fund transfer of students. I'm really struggling with the scholarships for exchange, you know.
Do you get much of a feeling for interactions within Latin America? We've got colleagues in Chile now that do they ever interact along the coast of South America?
I think so, but I don't think I'm, like, it's quite hard. My Spanish is not good enough. Like, I go to the, you know what I mean? Like, I know that the Yachai type faculty have interactions. I think so, but I'm less inspired than I was before. Like, through being there, I have a feeling there's a lot of inefficiencies and a lot of.
One of the values is that they don't actually talk too much between countries.
Yeah.
It's just spread inside countries because the bloody governments keep changing the way how things go.
Yeah, I think that's actually true. It's kind of like the bureaucracy is huge, and it's the kind of bureaucracy where no one takes responsibility in the end, and so it's easy to just pass on. That's why I haven't heard back from CNT, because it got passed up the supply chain. And the guy I had arranged, there was a guy there who had arranged for us to have permission from the education, the primary and secondary school education people to install these seismometers, right? And he was based at Yachai, and his job was to negotiate this. And I went to all these meetings with him, with the local people, and explained the whole project to them, and everyone was all excited and inspired. And then I checked on it just recently, and I got an auto reply from him that he's no longer working for VHI. And so I emailed the woman in charge of VHI and said, what happened to Juan Pablo, you know, who was quite an important link for us? And she was like, oh no, he left. I'm like, okay, so who's following this up? And she's like, no one. That's all right. And that kind of thing happens too much, you know, like the continuity is not there. It's quite frustrating. I don't know how you get around that. And there's the other problem with your child is there's too many things going on, actually. They're trying to be everything. So it's sort of like when you were there, you could spend 50% of every day at a seminar if you wanted to, and you were sort of encouraged to. And the labs are, they're not going to get one lab in place because they're trying to do, I mean, I understand this problem due to me being like that, of trying to do too many things, but.
How many students are taking at the university?
400, maybe. It's quite small.
So geology takes up a big portion of that.
But most of their majors are in maths.
Yeah.
Most of the kids want to do maths.
What I want to do next is about.
I don't know what it is.
Computer science.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Computer science is quite big. But most maths, they've got way more maths than geology majors. Like the kids will declare maths far more. They're pretty good mathematicians. They're exceptional students, all of them. They wouldn't be at your child if they weren't exceptional students. They're all residential on the campus, and it's not how they're used to running things. So, like the culture is one where you live with your family. And so there are quite a lot of social problems for the students. Like they have quite confidence issues and or worse, you know.
Situation nature.
Yeah, so they have to be good students and their support. Yeah,
That's
they're supported fully.
So what's there, I mean, given that a lot of what they've seen is, or a lot of what the focus might be on economic development, do they, when you start talking about sustainability?
The whole campus is amazing. It's everywhere. There's compost bins and little electric cars and stuff, but it's bullshit as well, right? Like all the compost gets put into the recycling bin with the.
So is that like some sort of international, for instance?
It's what they think they should be doing, but they haven't worked out the mechanics of how to do it, actually. But they will.
Talk to the students, do they care about that sort of thing?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they've gotten involved in VHI because of VHI's stated aims, which is to develop new technologies in pursuit of sustainable, world-changing solutions. You know, I had a nice flight through Shanghai recently because I sat next to people on the plane in Shanghai who were Chinese, and I talked to them. They were all flying to Germany, and I talked to them and I said, "It's interesting, you know, that I would preferentially buy a German solar panel over a Chinese one because of the longevity, even though it would cost me more." And they said, yeah, we are starting to recognize that consumers don't want products that are necessarily cheap. They want products that are good. And we are going to Germany to try and work out how to develop our product to be of higher quality rather than. So actually the culture in Shanghai is such. I'm impressed, right? It worried me, but I think I've been concerned that no matter what we think we should and can do in the first world, that these upcoming developing nations are going to blow us out the water. But actually, they're going to do it in a good way, right? Yeah. Oh, yeah. It is. Well, South America is, as South America goes. This is just one place I was able to get involved in, but I think Chile is the one that's seen as the most advanced, stable, and everywhere else is don't touch it with a 50-foot barge pole. It's corrupt and crazy.
Where does Ecuador get its power from? Is there much renewable power there?
It's a big oil burning plant that's experiencing subsidence.
Hydro.
Yeah. Geothermal renewable games.
Oh, well, our new PhD student there really wants to learn about geothermal resistance. Yeah. Yeah. Solar, yeah, I mean, it's like,
Pretty potential.
sometimes not.
Yeah.
They get cool thunderstorms too. Pretty, it's pretty different. Yeah, oil is a problem for them. It's not, they're not making money at it. Which is a good problem for them. But, yeah, leaving the country, I ended up talking to a bunch of basically oil people.
So the prices are low.
This is a lot of the amount of money that comes to the country for what they should see. Business, and then the I don't know what. Anyway, we should probably wrap up.
That's right. Thank you,